Unsolved.
In this episode, we're going to look at the best theory of the 4 theories in the poll question. So, let the video begin. The theory is Burke struck JonBenet on the back of the head with a hard, solid object. Or Burke strangled JonBenet with the nylon cord while he was alone with her, possibly in the basement. Or it was even worse. Burke strangled JonBenet with the nylon cord and sexually assaulted her. This would explain why Patsy might have decided not to call 911. Patsy found JonBenet dead when it was too late and too much time had passed. Patsy knew of Burke's violent history and actions against JonBenet, and Patsy couldn't handle the fact that her mother and friends would know that Burke sexually assaulted his sister. The Ramsey family left Fleet and Priscilla White's house Christmas night, sometime around 9 p.m. And then they went to Stuart and Roxanne Walker's house, and then they stopped at Glenn and Susan Stein's house, with little Doug Stein there, Burke's friend. And during John Ramsey's police interview, John answered questions about that night. Drove in the back through the alley into the garage. JonBenet had fallen fast asleep. I carried her inside and took her upstairs, put her in bed. Put her on her bed. Patsy came up behind me, and then I went to get Burke ready for bed. He was down in the living room, working on a toy. He recalled nothing unusual at the Whites' party other than getting a mild shock from the electric deer fence outside. He said his sister fell asleep in the car on the way home, but awakened to help carry presents into the house of a friend. When they got home, JonBenet walked in slowly and walked up the spiral stairs to bed, just ahead of Patsy. We know that JonBenet and Burke were up that Christmas night sometime because of this crime scene photograph during the kidnapping phase of the investigation. Both Patsy and John deny getting out the bowl of pineapple, either before going to the White's house or after when they returned to their home. Okay, let's go back further. Was Patsy screaming in a high-pitched scream, a shrill scream, a controlled scream? How loud did she scream? It was a scream of panic. Was my name, like something was badly wrong. Okay, when you checked on Burke, was he disturbed at all? No, he was asleep still. Burke, John yells. What about Burke? Both of us race to Burke's room at the far end of the second floor and find him apparently still asleep. Best not to arouse him until we figure out what happened here. I think he's better off asleep for now. Detective Melissa Hickman returned to Boulder from the Aerospace Corporation. The company did sound and photographic enhancement on a non-profit basis for law enforcement agencies using state-of-the-art technology. Hickman had taken the audio tape of Patsy Ramsey's 911 call. The tape included a few additional seconds of sound along with Patsy's frantic call for help. Sounds that may have been recorded when she replaced the headset improperly. The police had been unable to decipher the additional sounds.
Patsy?
Aerospace used a different technology, and voices in the background could now be heard more clearly. Hickman listened to the tape and wrote down what she heard. "Help me, Jesus, help me, Jesus." That was clearly Patsy's voice. Then in the distance there was another voice, which sounded like JonBenet's brother. "Please, what do I do?" Burke said. "We're not speaking to you," Hickman heard John Ramsey say. Patsy screamed, "Help me, Jesus, help me, Jesus." And then clearly Burke said, "What did you find?" Had they found JonBenet strangled to death? Well, when the Whites came, Burke was still asleep, and we decided it was best for him to go away to the Whites' house. And I don't know what time that was, but I got him up, I think, as I recall, and Fleet took him over, I think, to their house, and they had guest company there, so there was somebody there to watch the kids. Patsy was exhausted and frustrated. She struck JonBenet in the head with something, or violently pushed her into the sink or the bathtub, maybe possibly shaking JonBenet, and she hit maybe the toilet. In addition to those tasks, Patsy was packing summer clothes and bathing suits and suitcases laid out on the bed in John Andrews' bedroom. We had booked tickets on Disney's Big Red Boat in Florida upon our return from Charlevoix. The trip would last from December 29th through New Year's, a great way to celebrate Patsy's 40th birthday. Burke and JonBenet were very excited about the trip. We had never been on a cruise and thought that being with Mickey Mouse and company should be great family fun. Was Patsy too stressed, too exhausted, when JonBenet came to her and told her that she had wet the bed again? On the second floor in the bathroom off JonBenet's bedroom, investigators found a balled-up red turtleneck, which Patsy said JonBenet had been wearing when she went to bed. No one seemed to know how it ended up there. Again, we know that JonBenet was up that night because of the bowl of pineapple.
Don't call 911 to report a blocked driveway or a loud stereo. Leave the 911 lines open for real alerts. For anything else, call directory assistance. Think before you call 911.
911 emergency. Police. Here. It's a ransom note? It says FBTC. Victory. Oh my God, does it say who took her? What? Does it say who took her? Okay, what's your name? Are you Patsy Ramsey? I'm the mother. Oh my...
During Patsy's police interview, she recalled when the first police officer showed up at her door. I said that there was a note and that our daughter had been kidnapped and we were trying to get the money, and I don't remember. Patsy had just called 911. John went upstairs to get dressed, and Patsy told the first arriving police officer we're trying to obtain the ransom money. How was that possible? How could she be thinking about getting the ransom money when she hasn't even read the full ransom note? And there's this phrase in the ransom note: if you want her to see 1997. And then Patsy's Christmas letter, just written a few days before: I'm sure we'll be seeing the orthodontist in 1997, and will likely appear in one of the Better Homes and Gardens publications in 1997, and look forward to seeing you in 1997. One of the arguments that John Ramsey wasn't molesting JonBenet was because her pediatrician said there were no signs of sexual abuse. And I would counter that argument with 2 points. First, in a documentary that I saw, it listed Penny, the doctor's wife, as a friend of Patsy Ramsey. And second is the following passage. Cosseted though she was, Johnny B, as the family sometimes called her, suffered nagging health problems. She made 27 visits to the doctor during the last 3 years of her life, several times complaining of vaginal irritation. A genital abrasion detailed in her autopsy inspired speculation of abuse, but her pediatrician told Primetime that the number of visits was not unusual, and said JonBenet's vaginal woes were perhaps related to the use of bubble bath. Related to the use of bubble bath. Related to the use of bubble bath. Burke heard the house creaking during the night, he said, and when he awoke, his mother was turning on the lights and in a rush saying, "Oh my gosh, oh my gosh." Then his father turned the lights on and off again. Burke stayed in bed wondering if something had happened. He heard his father trying to calm his mother, then telling her to call the police. Burke told the detective he did not get out of bed that morning, and that a policeman looked into his room. He recalled thinking that when the police arrived, we would probably be tied up all day, and that he was disappointed the family would not be going to Charlevoix as planned. The sergeant found no evidence of forced entry during a walkthrough of the house, then went outside. A light dusting of snow and frost lay atop of an early crusty snow in spotty patches on the grass. He saw no fresh show impressions, found no open doors or windows, nothing to indicate a break-in, but walking on the driveway and sidewalks left no visible prints. It was frigid, about 9 degrees, and Rickenbach returned inside. As far as I know, the first person that John Ramsey called was the pilot, Mike Archuleta. And some might feel that I'm reading too much into this, but did John really need to call the pilot? I know that the pilot would be there and be waiting around, but is that urgent? I mean, what was the worst thing that would happen? He'd be waiting around for John, and then finally he would call John. And John called the pilot 3 times that morning. He called his house, but he had already left, and then he called the airport, and he hadn't arrived yet. And then, I guess he didn't call 3 times. And then finally, Mike Archuleta returned John's call, and John spoke to him then. Take a look at this knot. It's made so the stick won't move or slide along, just like when you tie a line to a pole on a yacht or sailboat. John was into sailing, and he was a U.S. Navy veteran. Do you really believe he didn't know how to tie a knot like this, as he said he didn't? When John is asked to look for anything out of the ordinary, he goes down to the basement and finds the broken basement window and shows Fleet, and then he goes to the wine cellar and finds JonBenet's dead body. Then he carries her upstairs and asks Detective Art if she's dead or not. Do you believe that he wouldn't know that she was dead? Well, there's no shortage of suspects in this case. You have John's business and the advertisement of the $1 billion in sales. You have Patsy taking JonBenet to beauty contests. And you have all the people that had access or were working for John and Patsy Ramsey. One of the arguments that falls flat to me is an intruder wouldn't know his way around where that wine cellar was, where JonBenet's bedroom was, and things of that nature. But if you think of it, if the intruder entered through the window well into the basement, that's most likely the way that he would exit the house. And so it kind of makes sense, if he's going to kill JonBenet, that it would have been done in the basement. And he wouldn't have been lost because he's coming up from the stairs from the basement. And so how would he not be able to find the door back down to the basement? And most people believe that he entered the Ramsey's house when they were at Fleet White's house. And you have how cruel and vicious the crime is. Would Patsy or John do this? And then there's the unknown male DNA found mixed in JonBenet's blood on her underwear. And it matches the touch DNA that's found on her long johns on the sides where an unknown male intruder would have had to have touched. Well, this ends this episode of Unsolved, and now you can answer that poll question. Who killed JonBenet Ramsey?